Oh, I'm cut out of the picture on that.
Oh, that's no
I
good.
think so. So let me.
Yeah. What's up, YouTube? All three of you. Yeah, that looks better. I think, sort of.
It's just the hair.
Is that better?
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
We're not going to be able to treat it so nonchalantly once it's a Periscope or something that's doing better.
Yeah. Right. All right. You ready?
Yep.
And 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? It's the Life on Life's Terms podcast, and we're back. I'm Tom Robinson, a grateful recovering addict, and like I always say, we're not affiliated with any 12-step program, although we do endorse them and have benefited from them.
Yes, I am Chris Mandeville. I am a recovering heroin addict. We are here at a New Way Recovery Center in Quincy, Mass. On Quincy Ave. Lots of good resources here. So if you're
Yes, sir.
in the South Shore area, definitely swing by. They have lots of meetings here, and it's all different types of meetings. It's not just 12-step, lots of support groups. So if you're around, come on down. And LOLTERMS.com.
Please subscribe.
Yes, subscribe, share. You could share this video now on your personal page if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, please get the word out.
Yeah, definitely get the word out there. So tonight we have Camila and
Camille.
Yep.
Oh.
Camille.
Okay. Camille, sorry. She's going to share her experience, strength, and hope with us. So,
Thanks for coming, Camille.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Take it away.
And thanks for having me. I've been kind of, I haven't spoke at a meeting from the podium probably in about 7 months. I kind of go into little withdrawing a little bit. Not isolating. I don't like the word isolating, but just sitting back and listening a little bit more. But I don't know how to really start with my journey. I was a drinker, and I could hold my liquor, and I was proud of it. And it started young. It was bizarre. I didn't understand. Now, when I look back at it, I don't understand because I didn't come from an alcoholic family. Now that time's gone on, because in recovery you find out more and more and more and more about yourself as time goes on. Like, it always amazes me when people say, oh, I worked through the steps when I first got sober, like it was done.
Yeah, right. Right.
It's like, for me, it's just everything that comes along in life, it just peels off another layer, and you say, wow, maybe that was a lot of my problem all along,
So now, obviously, the viewers and listeners can tell that you're not from up here.
I'm from Mississippi, but I've been up here almost 40 years, probably 38 years I've been up here. I left Mississippi, went into the military, which is a great place to be, and be able to drink when in some states you still couldn't drink till 21. When you're in the military, you drink in the on-post bar, and it's like,
Now,
wonderful.
did your drinking start in Mississippi?
Yeah.
So about how old would you say you were?
I can't remember my first drink, but I remember the game I played was, I was very cute.
Yeah.
Like, I looked like I wouldn't ever do anything.
Oh, very
you're
innocent.
The innocent one.
Yeah.
See.
So the minute, I don't know why, I know that other kids at school weren't saying it, but I can remember that I graduated high school at 17, and the drinking age for beer and other weird things,
Port wine.
that types of things, were sold in the grocery stores, and hard liquor was in the liquor stores, and you couldn't go in there till you were 21, but at 18 you could purchase in the grocery store. So I would go in the grocery store,
Isn't that wild?
and as of January of the year that I was going to be 18, but not till August, I started going and purchasing
At the grocery store.
at the grocery store.
That's weird.
So weird, right?
And they would ID me, but they just would automatically look at the year. I would always check out the cashiers when I walked into the store, and if it was like an old lady, I'd go to the old lady because she would just glance at the thing and.
Yeah, right.
Didn't
And then
see
if-
that good.
If anybody at the register, if they all looked, I don't know, like they might check my ID, I would buy something that I really wasn't my preference. They sell these things called cold ducks or something. There were these little things, kind of like the wine coolers are now.
Oh, yeah.
So if
I
you
think I
went,
remember.
if you went to an older lady or whatever, she'd sell it to you. She didn't realize it was liquor.
Oh, okay.
Or I would go to a really young guy.
Things were different.
If I wanted to buy a case, if I had friends, I would go right in there. And I remember coming out of the stores, and my friends would be in the car, like in amazement, like I was God.
Yeah, right.
Would you tell them it was for your dad?
No, they never asked. They would just look at that ID. Or I would go to a young guy at the register,
Yeah.
and I would buy some Kotex and Tampax also with the thing.
So he'd be all thrown off, all embarrassed, like, oh, beep. Just like scan everything. Didn't even want to look at anything. Yeah.
So it was like, it was that. And then I remember moving out of my home. I hadn't decided I was going to go in the military. And I moved out of my house and moved in with this girl I had met at college. She wasn't someone that I went to school with. And I was actually, I cannot even believe it when I think back on it. I was actually hanging out with this guy in his 40s that worked for alcohol and beverage commissioner. Yeah, and they go around and buy. And so I'd go in the restaurant with him, and he'd tell the waitress, go ahead and serve me. I'd drink it and everything, and he'd write them up.
Really?
And then you go out to the juke joints.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Go out to the juke joints way out in the country down a dirt road, and would pull in there, and he'd go in and buy 4 pints of moonshine. He was checking if they had illegal moonshine. He'd buy 4 pints of moonshine, 1 for evidence, 1 for the lab, and 2 for us.
So he was enjoying the stuff that he was busting people for.
Yeah, and a lot of them,
Nice guy.
unfortunately, do have an alcohol problem
Yeah.
that
yeah.
work for that
Right.
agency.
It's funny because a memory popped up on my Facebook the other day, and it was like 3 or 4 like 13 or 14-year-old kids had walked up to me and was like, hey, can you do a run? And I'm like, can I do a what?
5K?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, can you go to the Packy? I'm like, no. It's just, it's weird that you talk about that, and then that popped up the other day.
Yeah, I can remember being 13, and like you're 13, and my friend was 14. He worked with a kid who was 16, who got his friend who was 21 or 18, whatever it was at that time, to buy for him.
Right.
And the bottle went all the way down the line to us. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, so that 6-pack cost you like $25.
No, it was a handle of vodka. We
Yeah.
weren't messing around.
Because everybody had to get their 2 cents.
Oh yeah, gross.
Right.
So gross.
So you're running around with the alcohol and beverage commissioner, or he worked for him.
In Mississippi, the juke,
And then-
Yeah.
juke joints.
But soon after that, I just went into the military, and there was some drugs in there, of course. It was,
Acid.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
I ever heard that was in the military would take acid because it wouldn't come up in a urine. Is what
we
they
didn't get urine.
what they would say.
Yeah.
Oh no, they have to check your spinal fluid to find that.
Oh, I
I
remember
know.
hearing that too.
I don't know about that.
Spinal fluid. What
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Right.
I didn't do a
Crazy.
lot of that. That was like kind of a little bit before the service, and not too much of that. Cocaine, I can't even remember. There was never like a big episode with cocaine.
Yeah.
It just really, the only reason, a good alcoholic does cocaine is to be able to
Keep
drink
on
more.
drinking.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even understand the high from it. You don't even get high. You just talk a lot. Lord knows I don't need nothing that does
Unless
that.
you smoke it.
Oh,
And
please.
then you sounds like a helicopter if you just landed on your roof.
Yep.
And you're crawling around the floor looking for smoking
Yeah.
crumbs of
yeah.
cracker crumbs.
Carpet farming.
Gross.
But I always
Good times, though.
kind of would say that when I was drinking, you know, in the military and even when I got out, I feel like it was something that I wanted to have it. To me, I was always a little bit like Spock. Things had to be logical. You know, I was going to figure this out, and I would for like a length of time. Like I could get the buzz that I wanted and the relaxed feeling or a happy feeling, a little more up if I was at a party or something.
Yeah.
And I would figure out the exact amount of liquor and the exact amount of, you know, smoking a joint and stuff like that. And I went that way for like a long time. And if I
You were
ever
like
drink,
a scientist.
Yeah, right.
and if I ever, like, I remember one time I took a half a Quaalude and I says, this is not never again. I was just like, it interfered. If it interfered with that feeling that I like to have,
Yeah.
I was done with it.
So you could get there and stay there? Like,
I thought I could.
oh, okay.
At first, maybe.
At
right?
first you can,
Yeah.
you know, and you feel like you can.
A
And
feeling of ease and comfort.
And to make sure, like, you don't ever have a severe hangover. You know, it's
Yeah.
like you don't drink rum. And if you didn't want to go knocking on your ex-boyfriend's door in the middle of the night, you don't drink tequila.
My only don't drink when I was drinking was try not to drink something that's not mine or I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, right.
I'll drink whatever you got that you're giving me, though. You know,
And
Yeah.
it even went kind of all the way through because years later, when I knew I needed to let up on this, you know, I switched to wine, and I never liked wine.
Oh,
so
really?
I switched to wine to be able to drink, but feel like I had control over it because wine didn't even it did enough that it was worth drinking, but it didn't really ever do to me like what Jack Daniels or something like that did.
Right. Yeah.
But
It would be large quantities if
it
you...
definitely is
you
different.
drink so much wine, you actually feel it sloshing,
Yeah.
you know, in your stomach, and you're still not buzzed.
Yeah.
You're like this.
All you're
know,
doing is
high-
peeing all the
It's a
time.
high tolerance right there.
Yeah.
You might have a high tolerance if.
You can hear your booze in your belly.
I know. But you know, it was good times, and I think what the alcohol did for me, you know, I didn't know anything that I was shoving down back then. I didn't know everything I was shoving.
Feelings? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know everything I was shoving down back then. I had new discoveries within the past 8 years in sobriety. I didn't realize how I got in some groups and in therapy at the VA after Todd died, and not died, but was on his way.
Right.
Got in some groups and stuff, and I'd be like, I am so out of touch with with certain feelings.
Really?
Yeah, I can,
Like things that had happened.
After years of sobriety.
after years.
Wow.
I still was so unaware of how shut down I become around authority. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just little things like that, and how through the years that had kind of screwed me over, you know.
Yeah.
Both my husbands, you know, good men, but they called all the shots. And I didn't see it because as you can see, I'm not this meek and mild person.
Right.
I'm pretty together. But when it came down to it, they ran the show.
Huh.
Now,
Just whatever was said, okay, oh, that's a good idea.
So now, do you think that you know stems from something like
It does.
growing up?
A trauma in growing up and trauma in the military. You
Right.
know, like
Oh, females in the military. I've heard
Yeah.
absolute horror stories. Like horror stories. It's insane. You know, like some of the stuff that I've read and stuff that people have shared. Like,
well, you hope that culture's moving in the right direction.
Yes,
I'm sure
yes.
that it's coming from a place, especially back then, that wasn't easy to deal with for you. I'm sure.
But it's like, you know, what you don't know, you really don't know.
right. And you know, like before we had started, we were talking about our friend Mike, and you know, he you know, tells us that the traumas that happen to us, they get like locked up in your body, like not so much in your mind, but
Exactly.
like your body gets coded like a computer, like coding a computer with this trauma, and you know it stays with you until you can figure out how to work through that and release it, and it's going to keep affecting you over and over and over.
And you hear the thing. So many people. I mean, it's like you think you know when you hear. It's just automatic thing we do when you hear of a person's trauma. Like if you hear of like sexual abuse, you think they're going to have trauma around sex or around that type of intimacy. But everybody's different.
Right.
For me, it was more almost like a, I hate to say a male response. It was more like, I can't believe I let this happen to me. I can't believe I let somebody do that to me. Like I want to fight them.
Oh yeah.
You know, I want to
anger.
like a man would.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So when you're going through life, you know, and different people, you know, you're trying to work through the steps, or you're talking to people about stuff, you think it's going to, you know, they ask you the typical questions, and some of that surface wasn't getting scratched for me, you know.
Right. So you were angry. That was your thing. And
But I didn't know it.
you didn't know it till later.
Yeah, I didn't know that that's where the going along with what people told me to do.
Oh, the authority figure thing. Wow.
Yeah, where I would pick, you know, I don't think they did it, but I just went along with whatever was said.
Well, anger is fear. So maybe you were just afraid that something like that was going to happen again in the back of your mind, sort of, in a way. So you had to act.
It's easier to go with the flow,
right,
than it is to fight authority sometimes. And you never know when that situation is and really what is better to do. To be in a situation like and look back on things and say, how could I have done it different? And you want to write it different. And I think that's healthy. I think it's good to look back on some things and say, well, what if I had done this? And play that out in your head. It helps me with healing, you know, and to realize there was really nothing I could have done different, you know, and it's unfortunate.
That's
Right, because you get caught up in blaming yourself for what happened when you know it's really not your fault. Like, what did I do that made this, you know, them want to do this, or what, you know?
Yeah, and then it became in my life. I think I've got that very typical alcoholic thing, and you'll hear other people say this too. Was if I had everything just right, nothing bad was going to happen to me. If I had the house cleaned up right, if I had the kids dressed right, if my kids did well in school, if I had this certain job, if I was never late for work, if I paid all my bills, if I did everything right, everything was going to be all right.
That's kind of like the feeling of impending doom, where you're doing all these things to stave off a problem that you're making up in your own mind.
Yeah. Or like I think I've heard it termed as like destination happiness. Like if I get if I get to that, I'll be happy. You know, like I have to, you know, this has to be this way, this has to be that way, and it's not how it is.
Yeah, if I could just be the perfect good girl, then nothing bad was going to happen to me, and that's just not the way that life works. And with the you can't. It's hard to relax like that. A lot of my drinking as I got older, wasn't partying. It was like I had to shut down my brain at night
Yes.
after I got those kids to bed.
Yes.
And
Because you could be okay while you were handling that and
Exactly.
distracted, but then sit with self.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. you
Yeah.
know.
And then, you know, and I knew the drinking was increasing. My mom died. You know, it was down in Mississippi. I went down there for like 3 months before she died and came back up. And I was like, I'm unhappy. Like, that was the first thought. But then I couldn't sleep. My inability to sleep got even worse. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night one night. Now, mind you, I'm working on a psych unit. And so I knew if you woke up in the middle of the night and you needed a drink, it
You might
wasn't
be an
because you
alcoholic.
desired it. It was waking you up. And I remember reaching up in that cabinet, and I was like, I'm effed.
Yeah.
I can remember thinking it, you know.
It's like, that reminds me of somebody says it like all the time. I don't remember who it is, but like, oh yeah, I like chocolate ice cream, but I'm not waking up in the middle of the night because
Needing
chocolate ice cream is calling me out of the fridge. Or, you know, I'm not eating chocolate ice cream 5 times in the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I would be awake. If I didn't have a drink, I would stay awake till morning. You know, it was like,
Yeah,
it was terrible.
owned you.
It owned me. And I had a few what you could call jackpots, but what the torture that was going on up here.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they say the squirrels in your brain. Well, my squirrels were so busy burying those acorns. And I needed those acorns. I needed to know what those acorns were.
Right.
But my squirrels were burying
They were
them.
burying them faster than you could figure out what they were.
Exactly. And then just the soul
Fucking
sickness,
squirrels.
the soul sickness I had, you know, like just always feeling like there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Just like, this is not the way. And I could remember, I felt like even, you know, God would say to me, I got something better for you. And I'd pray and pray. I'd say, well, can't you tell me what? And can't you tell me how to get there?
Right.
You know, like, what is it? You know, and it would just be this constant, just my heart would physically hurt. And I'd think there has to be a better way. I'm lost. I don't know who I am. I love these kids to death. I know I'm doing a decent job, you know, mothering them. I know people appreciate me at work. On the surface, I looked, you know, pretty good.
But that's only because you're living out of fear, right? Yeah.
And I was just like miserable on the inside. And I don't know when the moment was, but I remember after my mother died, I could tell my mother anything I wanted to about my life over the phone. So she didn't see the fighting between me and my ex, you know, my kid's father. She didn't see the stress I was under. She didn't see me doing absolutely everything in that house, cutting grass, pregnant, cooking, you know, just go, just miserable. And then being talked to like I was a useless piece of shit, you know.
Oh, that's hard to take.
Yeah, I would just present
Boy.
it to my mother like everything was fine.
Yeah.
And when she died, I had this bizarre feeling. Now she can see.
Oh, wow, yeah.
The gig is up.
Yeah. Right.
And I also just felt that need to find something, to find a better way. I don't remember the details of everything because there was, you know, a little bit of like, you taper off the drinking, you stop for like a month, and then you start back up. Then I got pregnant with my 3rd kid, so I didn't drink at all during that pregnancy. And then after I had her, is when I made the decision to just drink wine. And then I was like, it wasn't like a big moment or anything. It was like, this isn't worth it. This wine's not doing what I need it to do, and I can't drink the hard liquor anymore because it just, I've got to figure out something. I went to a few meetings and I stopped. I didn't go to any more, but I got me a step book, and I put another book cover
dust cover over it.
over the step book because I didn't want my husband at the time to see that I was reading that, because everything that I would try to do for myself, he would like make fun of it or tear it down. So I'd read that step book, and I remember reading step 1.
Miserable.
So narcissistic and
Controlling.
gaslighting, making you think everything's your fault, no matter what.
But I just read step 1 like over and over and over. And after a few months, he saw that I wasn't drinking. He'd say, I'm going up to the liquor store. You want anything? No, I'm all set. So he stopped. We didn't talk about it. He just stopped because he had to I couldn't be better than him.
Oh, boy.
His ego.
Yeah.
And about 4 years later, I got the guts, and we were driving in the car, and I says, and life still kind of sucked, but it was better. My first year of sobriety by myself was awful. Every minute in my car, I cried and prayed to God to help me to lift this desire to drink.
Oh, man.
And a year. That's some of what kept me sober for a long time. If when you relapse, you can take just a taste of a drink. And I know this from knowing the brain and working in the field. When you take just a taste of a drink, there's a 50-50 chance that it might not click that switch and you start craving. But then the thought that if I ever took another drink, that craving would come back, and that misery of that first year, I'm like, I don't want that. I didn't want that. I don't like being controlled. I'd been controlled with everything, and I didn't like this liquor controlling me.
Exactly, and didn't even realize, that you were letting it control you.
What about self-respect? Did you have that? Was that part of your story where you didn't have enough self-respect, or you didn't have a lot of self-respect, or have you gained more self-respect since then?
I don't know if I call it self-respect. I feel like it's just
self-love.
Yeah, just comfortable with who I am and the life I've lived. It's not just the bad stuff. I feel like I've been one of the luckiest people being able to be in the fellowship for 27 years and work in the field. To see people, to have them stand in the hospital in a trash bag so you can get their pants off of them because they're stiff from their urine. And the charcoal's all on their face and up their head. And they're just shaking like this. And you take those clothes off of them and you wash them. And then years later, you see them from the podium. And you can't figure out who they are.
Like it says.
Amazing.
You look at them and I go, I know that guy.
Right.
Who is that? And then it comes to you.
Yeah.
And actually, that's how I started going to meetings. It was the hospital. I was sober by my little old self, probably about a year and a half, maybe even 2. I thought I was real smart, I went to college, so
yeah.
I majored in psychology.
You got it figured out.
Yeah, I had it figured out. But I still wasn't real happy. And they tore up the unit, and the nurses got reassigned. We only had no beds on the unit, so someone like me would just, their degree in psychology, I ended up going over to ICU and CCU, the medical units.
Yeah.
And one-to-one, and people that had come through the ER, too sick to go to a regular detox, just sicker than sick.
Yeah.
And they'd been in the hospital sometimes like 2 or 3 days, and they still had their pissy clothes on. No other staff would
Really?
I'm not saying every time.
Right.
And just to spend the day, and I felt, what I think in the scriptures it says, where the weakest are, there I'm my greatest. There I'm watching over. And you could feel that presence.
Right.
And I would wash them, and we'd talk. And so then 3 or 4 months later, when the unit opened up, it was a locked unit at that point. You'd hear a knock on the door, and you'd look through the window. It'd say, "Is Camille in there?" And I'd go to the door, and I'd say, "Hey, Camille, I'm going to get my 6-month chip over at the Good Sound meeting tonight. Will you come see me get my chip?" So
Right.
as it turned out, because I had watched those guys, watched people and some women, one-on-one people, I was going to a meeting like at least twice a month to see somebody get their chip whose ass I had washed.
And
Was
like
grateful for it.
Yeah,
I have I have a little bit of experience with this, and I've seen
Incredible.
what people can do that are doing one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also seen how shitty some nurses can be, and like the people that are sitting there doing one-to-ones, like not everybody wants to do it, but some people, like the experience I had, they were like, thank you, thank you for like sharing and I seen it, helping them out, help washing them up, and it's
And all you have to do is talk that day.
yeah, it's just have a conversation, just be human with another human, and connect on that emotional level. Like, so what brought you here, and it's amazing what transpires.
Yeah.
And
I would want to hear, I would say, well, they'd go, yeah, I had 5 years sober or 5 years clean. I'd go, what happened? And I'm expecting to hear this tremendous trauma
or extreme
dynamic,
tragedy.
And they go, basically, I stopped going to meetings, and just that was it.
A lot of times you'll hear, first I stopped praying. Because you ain't asking for the help, you ain't gonna get it. That's what something that I've realized, and in the people that I've talked to that had long-term sobriety and relapsed, and other times it's been something happened physically and they got put on medication. And that 50% that you were talking
That's
about,
a normal story.
that
It
switch
just hits
switch went off.
Yeah. So it's like, after that, I just kept saying to myself, I've got to find a meeting closer to home. I got to start going closer to home and join a group and do everything that, I need to do to make this last. And I think I was sober about 6 or 7 years, and I joined first I joined a group down in Plymouth and was going there pretty regular. I did a women's AWOL. By this time I had divorced my husband, my first husband.
Was he from Massachusetts?
Yeah, that's how I ended up here. And I divorced him, which that like really freed me up, because I could go to meetings. My youngest, she would come with me to meetings. The airport group in Plymouth, on Fridays, they let kids come. They had a little table set up and everything like that. And she would come with me to meetings, and she loved it and everything like that. And then when she got a little bit older, of course, my oldest daughter was older, so, I could go to meetings, and the oldest one was old enough to watch, the other two. So, you know, it just like, and I started going to meetings, and honestly, life started to get better. You know, I started to feel better. I started to like.
Life stays the same. We get better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got better. I felt better. I met my second husband, Todd. Had seen him in meetings. He ended up coming to where I was working in a detox. Saw him there, then saw him again out at meetings when he was coming up on a year. And I was going to, had at that point probably going to like 3 or 4 meetings a week, and we started talking some and running into each other at meetings and everything like that. And about, I want to say a year or 2 later, we got married, and I really felt really good. It felt really good to be going to meetings with your significant other that, you know, wanted to be there too.
Right.
You know, you feel good living with somebody else in recovery.
Right, and you guys have that common common thread, and both want to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Sometime right around there is like when you guys would take me to meetings, you would show up, bring me out to meetings. I was living in Norwell.
Mm-hmm.
It was like after I got out of the house the first time, the turnabout the first time, and they used to come and get me, and that was definitely instrumental in pushing me along the right way. You know, I joined a group then. Yeah, thank you for that. Because I remember, I always think of that time, and I remember the only significant thing that I really remember anybody saying was when you said to me, if you can't do this and that, I don't know what we were talking about. Might not be able to do that, but at least you can come and get your ass in the seat. And you said that, and I always thought of that, like, well, I might not be doing anything right, but at least I'm showing up, putting my ass in the seat.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. And, you know, that I remember we'd go to meetings, and sometimes you'd be high.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought of this the other day, and it's really nothing, but there was a woman one time, and she was looking at us and treating us different. And I felt I was going to have to get up and beat her ass.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I just sat there. And every time she'd come up, she always kept asking us, were we the commitment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. I'm old, you know, so I like know
It's all
things.
good.
I was a little bit younger then, but I was still mature. And I felt like we hadn't been to that meeting before. I don't remember exactly what meeting it was, but it was in a little, you know, one of those towns.
Yeah. One of those towns.
And I felt like that she maybe thought we were all new.
Oh, yeah.
And by asking us if we were the commitment a couple of times, we would get scared that we were going to have to speak
Oh,
and leave.
trying to run you out of there.
And I says, no, we not the commitment. You know, how you doing? I'm Camille. We're not the commitment.
Nope, just like we weren't last week.
I was wishing I was a commitment.
Yeah.
I needed to be committed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, you know. I don't have the experience with relapse, like since coming into, you know, meetings or whatever. Like I went to jail, I went to treatment, and I've been sober since. So I don't know how it feels to have some time and go out and then have to come back. You know, but I need to see that stuff. You know, I need to watch these people and for someone to like treat them differently when they're trying to come back, or even if someone is in the hall and they're high.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Like,
the
where
only
do you think you are?
Yeah.
Like,
I know. You
hello?
ain't at the Taj Mahal. You're in a frickin' meeting.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But I also have to remember that I'm dealing with
alcoholics
who are not always treated.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's right. So you have to forgive them for that as you forgive them for the people who are there getting high in your meeting. And as far as judgment goes, I mean, the older I get, the more I realize, and it's so freeing and it's so nice to think of things this way. And it sounds stupid, but it's how I believe. You can't judge something like, we're not this. We're not this physical person. We are something greater than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you can look past, like, okay, you were born to this family, and you have this ethnicity, and you have this amount of money, and you have this, you're even if you're diehard, belong to this group or that group, and you've been that way since you were a kid. Well, you know what? That's not really you. That's just a persona or a person,
Right.
A personality or an identity that you've decided to attach yourself to.
Right.
You're more
Right.
than that. And everybody's more than that.
Like,
we're
just
all the same thing.
Imagine, I've seen it, through social media. Imagine if when you looked at people, you seen their soul and not their face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if you could see what's inside somebody, because we don't know the struggles that people go through. Like,
Right.
I could tell everybody, yeah, shit's pissa. And it's not. Or, or the other way around. You don't know the struggle that someone's going through.
Exactly.
And
I think I had already learned by that time that it's like, you can one day be peeling those pissy pants off that guy, and 10 years later, he could be your boss. I already know that.
Either that or he's peeling pissy pants off you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I've already seen this miracle of recovery absolutely change people.
Right.
It just absolutely change people, and there's no predicting it, and there's no. It's just all we have. We say all we have is today, and it's so true. And to just try to, just to try to love each other and forgive each other. And the one thing too is, like, in the house, so many times when I was going through all of that, when Todd relapsed, and we had about 3 years that I kept trying to help him, Section 35 in him, and he'd go live somewhere else for a little while, and then, he'd come back home, and then 2 or 3 months would go by, and he would, relapse and be crazy again.
Yeah. I was so wrapped up at that time in my own stuff.
Yeah.
I feel bad about that. I wish I had been closer to him at the time. You don't really know just how much of a part of you someone is until they're gone.
Right.
And he was definitely a huge part of me, and a part that it's just I just can't believe it's not there anymore. It's just like, that person is gone. I just can't. He's like, I met Todd when I was on the school bus in elementary school. You know what I mean? And then as we were working together, and him helping me get sober, and then being sober at the same time, and working together, and just all the stuff we went through, and then it's just to have that silenced, like there's no, I don't know, I'm not maybe not describing it all that great, but it's devastating.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
I feel like everybody has the potential, for greatness if they put everything into their life, but when they're in our life, we know them, and we see them, and we see them grow. I watched him grow in recovery and get in the iron workers and his racing and everything like
Bicycle
that.
Racing,
and he kind of went like this with his recovery. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'd join a AWOL and then he'd stop going, But he was pretty faithful about, like, making it to meetings and everything like that. And I remember one time he says, I don't know how, he wasn't a very religious person, but I remember we were driving down the Cape, and he says, I don't know how, he says, like, I always have you to talk to. And he says, but sometimes everybody's going to be alone. And I can't imagine the people that can't just say, God, can you help me today? When you're alone.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in that car, and I was like, thank you, God, that he has that. Because I was so afraid in the beginning that he was relying on me and a few other people in the fellowship, which is great.
Oh, okay.
We do need to rely on each other.
Yeah, if that's how you got to start.
But in that alone time, and he was seeing that, and I saw that. My point in saying that is I saw his growth, and I saw it happening. And then when I saw, even before he drank, him falling apart, and there was nothing I could do. And I always, during the time, I remembered, and I know this sounds dramatic, and I don't mean to make it be that way, but it's just the way my mind thinks. When JFK got shot, and in that video, do you see Jackie scramble on the back of the car for that piece of his brain?
Yeah.
That's what you feel like. And you think, I'd see that video, and I'd be like, what does she think she's going to do with that piece of brain?
Right.
It's just you're scrambling at every piece of them.
Yeah, just trying to pull them back together.
Pull them back together.
Right.
And there's just like nothing that you can do.
Yeah.
Right.
And then for my own sanity, I had to just
Stop.
just stop.
You have to. Mm-hmm. That you guys both live Casillo. They both live Casillo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you know that Father Joe died? Did you know Father Joe?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, he just passed away Easter Sunday morning.
Yeah, it's sad.
Sad for us.
He was funny.
Oh,
Not
snacks
necessarily for him.
Snacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I understand, like you're trying to just watch these people and hold them together, but like no matter what you do, if they're not, if they don't want the same thing, it's not,
And people would say to me, like that knew me well and everything like that, and they'd say, Camille, just, throw him out and don't ever talk to him again. I says, this is not just a marriage thing.
Right.
This is, I'm his next of kin. I'm the one that can Section 35 him. Mm-hmm. And I'm another alcoholic. Right. And we had even had talks, like him and I would talk, and I says, what would you do if I relapsed? And he'd say, I would Section 35 your ass so fast, like that, because I want you back.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of say the same thing to him, but that was tough to have that part that was, this was my husband and it was a marriage, and he was doing horrible, horrible things.
Right.
Around me, to me, just, everything. It was a mess. And I would say to people, I said, I have to live with myself for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And until I have Section 35'd him that last time, and know that I absolutely did everything that I could do, then I can be done. And I actually passed the baton to his older sister. And she called me, and he had been staying down there, and she says, Camille, I've got to do what you do when you go to court and they take him for 30 days. I said, I'll meet you at the court. And I walked her through the process, and then I knew, that from then on that she could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like not a relief or anything, but and then even after that, he had an episode with pancreatitis and was in the hospital
I remember that.
and got real sick.
Yeah.
And I went to the hospital, and, you know, I thought I could talk to him after that. And then about 2 weeks afterwards, he called and he says, "Can I pick up the dogs?" And I said, "I can't do this." Because all I wanted was my life back, and I couldn't tolerate thinking about the next time he drank, you know. But we talked through the years, but it is that I remember, this is off of that, but I remember when it was first going on, I started going to Al-Anon.
Yeah.
And I was coming out of an Al-Anon meeting, and I had my Al-Anon book, and I was mad. And I was like, look at, to myself. I talked to myself. I said, look what this has resorted to. I'm at an Al-Anon meeting. Yeah. And I threw that book in the car.
Pissed.
Yeah. Like, oh, now I go to Al-Anon.
Yeah.
And
it's funny. It was suggested to me, if you're going to work with alcoholics, you might want to check out Al-Anon.
Definitely, yeah. It's wonderful.
To get that separation, so that we can help them better.
Mm-hmm. And help ourselves first.
Right.
You can't help somebody when you're drowning with them, And
no
it's
way.
Like, it was, I'm sad, very sad that he died. I always had two scenarios that were going on in my head. Every once in a while, I'd be like, "Oh man, I hope he's doing good," because when I get my 30-year, we used to always give each other our medallions. I says, when I get my 30-year medallion, I hope he's got like a couple of years, sober, and I'm gonna have him give me my 30-year medallion, And then I would just so hope, I'd hear about something, or either he would contact me.
He gave me my 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me mine up until we had been married about 10 years. And so that would have been, I don't know, it's maybe more like the last time he gave it to me was when we were married 8 years. And I can't remember what I'd be sober then.
14?
Yeah, about 14 years. Yeah, because when we were taking you around was 14, that's 14 years ago. That's right. And
it was a little more than that, actually.
Yeah, and I always hope that, I'd like pray all the time, oh God, please let him be doing good, and then, I would hear different. And 3 months before he died, he had been incarcerated, and he got out and he drank, and they locked him back up. And he called me when he got out, and we talked for about an hour. And when I got off the phone, I felt really good. We had talked before. We had hashed everything out before. Apologies on both sides and everything, and he totally understood how much I loved him, and that's why I couldn't be around him at all.
Yeah.
It made me too sad. And we talked for about an hour. Then when I heard that he died, I was like, well, I had that phone call, and I've always wondered about that because I had a cousin that did the same thing. We talked for cousin I hadn't talked to in 20 years. And he talked, and he sounded so good and everything like that. And then he died a couple of weeks later. And I don't know, I think we feel things in our soul,
Yeah.
But after we talked, I felt really good, and I kept saying to him, he says, Camille, I can't get it back. And he says, and even if I get it back, it's not going to be like it was. I says, I know, Todd, that's why I was fighting for you to get it together again. I said, because it wasn't about that I wanted my husband back. It was about I knew how happy you were. I knew how happy you were in recovery.
Yeah.
And how well you were doing. And I knew that you would regret it forever. I says, but you can get it back.
Yeah, that's that lie.
Mm-hmm.
That I've seen lots of people stay out there because of that. Like, oh, it's never going to be like it was. I can't get that. No, it can be way better than it was.
Yeah.
Don't let that.
Very possibly.
Don't let your disease lie to you like that.
And I didn't like say anything like it can be way better. I just said, you got to give it a chance.
Yeah, right.
I says, Todd, you never know. You never know what God and life has for you.
Right.
You know, and he says, I know. He says, I might go away to treatment. I think he went to somewhere in New Hampshire for a little while before he died.
Yeah.
And
that was his last stop, and then he came back here and was by himself in a hotel room or something like that. And then they found him outside. And it was like 18 degrees or 8 degrees, or it was frigid cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about this, like people just walking by.
Yeah, somebody said they went into the 7-Eleven and he was snoring, and then they came out and he wasn't snoring anymore.
You know,
you know, his family and everything, like they were questioning, and I don't know what they found out or anything like that, but just from my past experience with him, we had not talked in a while, and he called me one time and he says, Camille, I had a seizure. He was doing landscaping, you know, because he wasn't doing iron work, and when he would mess up, he'd do that in between, and he says, I had a seizure at work. And they took me to the ER, and he says, and I have no recollection. He says, but I'm between Plymouth and North Plymouth walking. And I says, well,
wow,
your Aunt Jean lives right there. Go over to your Aunt Jean's and tell her to take you back to the hospital.
Yeah.
I says, you're confused, Todd. But his you know, the way he was speaking, if you didn't know him, it sounded clear.
Oh, yeah.
In my mind, I think that's what happened to him that night. I think he went to the hospital and he had a seizure, and he was somewhat confused.
And left?
And left. And even for him to be so stupid as to not get out of the cold, he was not a dumb man.
No.
Right.
And he did not like the cold.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think he was confused. And even when that time he called me then, and he called me from his aunt's, I don't know if she wasn't taking him to the hospital, like, because he seemed so normal. I said, yeah. He goes, do I need to go to the hospital? I says, yeah, you need to go back to the hospital. Do you need me to tell your Aunt Jean she needs to take you back to the hospital right now?
Yeah.
You know, but like that was the only little thing he could remember in that confusion, was like to call me. You know,
that's the thing that this disease does to people in active addiction, alcoholism, whatever you want to say. It takes your mind away from you. It's easier when you've got an addiction like, say, gambling or something like this. At least your mind isn't clouded with chemicals. At least your mind isn't diseased physically. It's a mental obsession, which, you know, of course, reacts on the dopamine, whatever. But it's not the same. It's not like, you know, I remember coming out of it, in other words, getting sober for a little while here and there, and being like, I don't even think the same way. I'm not processing my life or thinking of myself in the same way when I'm out there using. It's just not even me. It's like you go away and come back. The sober you, obviously, you know, it's such a evil and destructive disease, you know. Such a sad thing to watch someone you love just die from it.
Yeah, that's.
But I'm grateful for everybody that he helped along the way. Like, you know, through you, he's alive.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Through him, I have things that I didn't have before, up here and in my heart.
Right.
I had a chance to live with, you know, a soulmate, the love of my life. You know, no matter what happened bad, there was absolute no question. Like if even his sister said, you know, she says, oh, what was it, girlfriend of the month? She goes, Camille, you were it. You were the beginning. You were it. And just to have that assuredness that somebody loved you that much.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed with that,
Right,
no matter what. And to know the things, that he, all the good things he did,
Right.
Like
That's
this disease takes away a lot, but our recovery and our life that we live in recovery, even though he ended up drinking and dying, his life that he lived in recovery, he helped and blessed a lot of people.
Right, and that stuff don't go away.
It does not go away.
Exactly.
It does not go away.
It's always there.
We're always there for each other. This is just a miraculous program. We're blessed to be able to see other people, come in and grow, and we know each other.
Right.
You ever been? I can't even think of anything right now, but I know I've been somewhere. But it's like you say a couple of things to somebody, and they're one of us.
Right,
just
right.
like that. You
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of like know they're
Oh
one
yeah,
of us.
you hear him use
know?
a couple phrases, and you're like, Bill, you a friend of Bill's. But then that's also blown up in my face. Bill who? Oh, never mind. Wrong person. But yeah, it is. We're everywhere, and there's not really many places I can't go with that I don't know someone that's doing this deal.
Yeah. It's a beautiful life.
Yes, it is.
It's so much better.
Definitely is.
It's so much better that when I can get bummed out or have a bad day or something like this happens with Todd and I'm devastated, I don't have to turn to a substance. I can feel the feelings. I can go through the feelings and learn and grow from them, and they pass without me destroying my life or just giving up some time. Because that's another thing I think about is like when you're using every day and using hard, it's like that time is just wasted. It's like giving it up. It's like you're giving precious time on this world, and by anesthetizing yourself, not being able to feel any feelings, not being able to think right, not being able to do what you want to do, you're in control of the drug or the alcohol or whatever you want to say. It's like giving the time away. It's like, and I don't know. I'm glad. It's a beautiful life. I'm so glad that I don't live that way anymore.
Yeah, and it just gets better. Like if somebody would have said to me 10 years ago, oh, well, it can even get better. Not just the physical things that happen, but better in here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit still
I'd have
happens.
said, I would have
life
said,
happens.
oh, how? And it's like, even I hear people will say to me, well, Camille, do you think that you can just kind of not worry about stuff like that anymore? Do you think it's because you went through menopause? I go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But it is. It's like to not have, I used to have so much angst and worry about my kids and things. If somebody said something to me the wrong way, and whatever, I would like stew on it. And now somebody can come up to me and say, oh, so-and-so, when they said that to you yesterday, did you get mad? And I go, what'd they say?
Right.
I'm like, literally, it's already gone.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Greater serenity, greater and greater levels of peace of mind.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being okay, acceptance of the present, acceptance of the world as it is. It's okay because
That
know that you're okay.
That was yesterday. What are you talking about? I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you believe that guy? How full of himself he is? Oh well. I didn't even
What
realize
guy?
it. Yeah. What guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can relate totally.
Yes. So yeah, we're about there.
Oh yeah, we are there. Look, there it is. We go for an hour.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Camille.
Yes,
I really
thank you
I'm
for
glad
thank you for
it was-
coming on.
this
This
was
was
nice.
it was good.
It was unbelievable. The testimony about your work in the hospital really got me. That was unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you for
that's the
sharing that.
trenches right there.
Yeah.
Front lines.
I'm grateful for them.
Right? Yeah. Obviously you love what you do if you're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know it ain't the greatest paying work. But monetarily.
Yeah.
Monetarily.
Monetarily,
But
that's right.
The the feelings and the stuff that you get out of
fulfillment.
Yeah. Like you said, peeling someone's pissy pants off and then seeing them at the podium.
Oh my God!
What?
You have no idea.
Yeah, I love that.
Incredible.
That's great. That's the bright spots. You know.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes, LOLTerms.com.
Please subscribe to the audio podcast.
Yes, like, subscribe, share.
Please share this live feed, Facebook, YouTube.
Yep.
We're going to move to Periscope, we think, too. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. All right, everybody.
All right, people. Peace.
Thank you.
You got YouTube. Let's see.